The lecture hall was carved from obsidian and bioluminescent crystal, its curved tiers filled with restless young warriors. Their armor was unscarred. Their crests were bright. They smelled of anticipation and pride. I stood before them, leaning on a ceremonial staff I no longer needed. "Settle," I said. My voice carried the rasp of centuries and vacuum-scarred lungs. The hall obeyed, though not without confusion. They had expected a hero, a legend of conquest. Behind me, the star map of the Signafy system ignited in pale blue light 7 planets, 3 habitable moons, and more graves than any chart could show. "You know my name?" I began. "You know my victories. What you have not been taught, what your instructors avoided, is my greatest failure." A ripple of unease passed through the class. "We fought the humans there," I continued, tapping the glowing system. "And by doing so, we ensured our species would never again mistake curiosity for weakness." Several cadets exchanged glances. Humans were considered a footnote now, a defeated race, a warning symbol in tactical manuals. "That," I said, reading their thoughts as clearly as if they were spoken aloud, "is the first lie." The lights dimmed. The star map shifted, replaying the opening moments of the war. Our analysts told us humanity was divided, emotion-driven, reckless. They said humans would collapse under coordinated pressure. We believed them. The simulation showed our fleets arriving in perfect formation, sleek, silent, overwhelming. You are taught that the enemy breaks first. That fear is a weapon. That superiority guarantees compliance. I looked across the hall, meeting young, eager eyes. Humans do not break the way other species do. The first human ships appeared crude, scarred before the battle even began. And when they realized we had come not to speak, but to take, they did something none of us predicted. They stopped trying to survive. Silence fell, not the polite silence of discipline, but the heavy stillness of something beginning to understand it has been misled. "This," I said, as the battle simulation froze mid-collision, "is why I'm here, not to teach you how to win." The lights fully dimmed, but to teach you who you should never force into a corner. The lights in the lecture hall rose slightly, enough for the cadets to see one another again. I welcomed it. Fear, when shared, has a way of clarifying truth. "You have studied humans," I said. "At least you believe you have." A subtle tightening moved through the class. Training implants activated. Data memories stirred. I could almost see the reports scrolling behind their eyes. "They were cataloged as a Class 3 expansion species," I continued. "Technologically uneven, politically fractured, emotionally volatile." I gestured, and the star map dissolved into columns of text and human imagery. Our analysts saw chaos. They mistook noise for weakness. "You see disorder," I told the cadets. "You see inefficiency. You assume collapse." I let that sink in for a moment. "What you did not see," I said, my voice dropping, "was practice." The image on the display changed. We saw the same species, but now they were in uniform, standing in silent, organized rows, shoulder to shoulder beneath alien skies. Their gear was a mess of mismatched parts, their armor scarred and patched. "They argue constantly," I explained. "They doubt their leaders. They question their own systems." Some of the cadets nodded. This was what they'd been taught. But when an external will seeks to decide their fate for them, I said, my voice low and serious, they become singular. I let the word hang in the air. Singular. The display then zoomed in on a single human transmission, a message we recovered from the very first days of the Signify invasion. There was no encryption, no display of force. Just one sentence, broadcast on every channel. "This system is not yours." They didn't posture. They didn't negotiate. And the message just kept repeating. "This system is not yours." Our diplomats argued it was all bravado. Our tacticians dismissed it as a delaying tactic. I closed my eyes, remembering. I labeled it irrelevant. You could feel the unease spread through the hall. Commanders are not trained to admit mistakes, especially not ones this fundamental. We believed that under pressure, the humans would fracture. We thought fear would amplify their internal divisions and tear them apart from the inside. We were wrong. We had completely misjudged our enemy, and that single simple message was the beginning of our end. I opened my eyes and looked directly at the front row. You must understand this clearly, I said. Fear does not divide them the way it divides us. The display changed again. Human historical footage cities under bombardment, emergency shelters, civilians aiding one another amid smoke and fire. When frightened, I said, they do not look inward. They look sideways. I leaned on my staff. They seek connection. A human child appeared on the screen, gripping the hand of a soldier twice their size. Both faces were dirty. Both were afraid. Our psychological models failed here, I said. We assumed self-preservation would override solidarity. I shook my head slowly. For humans, solidarity is self-preservation. The cadets were silent, now not disciplined silence, but attention sharpened into something closer to unease. We thought we were invading a system, I said. The display pulled back, showing the full Signify system once more. In truth, I continued, we were invading a story they had already decided to die inside, if necessary. I let the lights dim further. And that, I said, was our first mistake. You are taught, I said, that intelligence is the art of prediction. I let that doctrine hang in the air before dismantling it. In truth, intelligence is the discipline of listening, especially when the message is inconvenient. To win, you must understand not just their capabilities, but their beliefs, their narrative, their soul. Our failure wasn't a lack of firepower. It was a lack of empathy. We saw targets, not people fighting for a story. Remember this. The display behind me reconfigured, shifting into a complex lattice of intercepted transmissions. You can see it all. Human military bands, civilian channels, emergency beacons, even fragments of their culture, all stripped from their original contexts. I have to admit, our collectors were thorough. In the weeks leading up to the invasion, we captured petabytes of human data. I turned so the cadets could grasp the sheer density of it, and we misunderstood nearly all of it. Let me show you. A human broadcast started to play. It's grainy, poorly framed. A figure sits before a simple emblem, their voice calm despite obvious fatigue. If you're hearing this, it means they've crossed the line. I froze the image right there. This, I told them, was dismissed as mere morale theater. We had no idea what it truly meant. All right, let's roll the recording again. We didn't start this, but we are damn well going to finish it. Now, our analysts flagged something interesting, the absence of panic. They assumed it was a performance, a show of strength. But what they failed to understand is that humans perform their panic in private. Look at this. The screen split into countless windows showing hospital wards, evacuation corridors, families holding each other tight, and volunteers piecing together ancient equipment. Humans compartmentalize their fear, and then they operationalize it. They turn that fear into fuel. The next transmissions we intercepted weren't even military. They were human entertainment channels. Just music. This was all dismissed as cultural noise, completely irrelevant. But listen to this. A low rhythmic beat starts to fill the space. Human percussion. Steady, relentless, and a sign of what's to come. You hear chaos. They hear cadence. As the tempo shifted, becoming faster and sharper, they synchronized their entire fleet movements to these rhythms. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was pure instinct. A young cadet once asked me, hesitantly, if humans really coordinated combat using music. I could feel the disbelief ripple through the room. I explained that it wasn't about the music itself, but about memory. Humans remember patterns under stress far better than they remember silence. I showed them the data fleet trajectories overlaid with the audio waveforms. The alignment was perfect, undeniable. Our own commanders demanded cleaner data. They ordered filters, suppressions, silencing anything that didn't fit their rigid models. They silenced the very thing that gave their enemies an edge. They silenced the cadence, and in doing so, they silenced their own understanding. What patterns are we ignoring today? The music cut abruptly. What replaced it was emptiness. That, I said, was when the humans went quiet. The hall seemed colder. They did not lose communications, I continued. They ended them. A strategic map appeared, human signals vanishing system by system. To us, this meant collapse, I said. To them, it meant commitment. I leaned forward slightly. When humans stop speaking, it is because every necessary argument has already been settled. The display highlighted the moment our invasion fleet crossed into Signify proper. That was when their preparations ended, I said. And when ours became irrelevant, I straightened, meeting the cadets' gaze one by one. You will be tempted, I warned them, to trust superior sensors over inferior minds. I shook my head slowly. Remember this lesson, or you will not return. The music cut abruptly. What replaced it was emptiness. That, I said, was when the humans went quiet. The hall seemed colder. They did not lose communications, I continued. They ended them. A strategic map appeared, human signals vanishing system by system. To us, this meant collapse, I said. To them, it meant commitment. I leaned forward slightly. When humans stop speaking, I said, it is because every necessary argument has already been settled. The display highlighted the moment our invasion fleet crossed into Signify proper. That was when their preparations ended, I said. And when ours became irrelevant, I straightened, meeting the cadets' gaze one by one. You will be tempted, I warned them, to trust superior sensors over inferior minds. I shook my head slowly. That was when their preparations ended, and when ours became irrelevant. You will be tempted to trust superior sensors over inferior minds. But at Signify, we learned that human minds are not inferior. They are simply tuned to a different kind of war. You are taught that intelligence is the art of prediction. In truth, intelligence is the discipline of listening, especially when the message is inconvenient. The display behind me shows a lattice of intercepted transmissions. Human military bands, civilian channels, emergency beacons, fragments of culture stripped from their original contexts. Our collectors were thorough. We captured petabytes of human data in the weeks before the invasion. I want you to see the sheer density of it. This wasn't just noise. It was a symphony of a species on the brink, and we almost missed the most important notes. And we misunderstood nearly all of it. The old human broadcast flickered to life on screen, grainy, poorly framed. A tired figure sat before a simple emblem, their voice calm despite the obvious fatigue. If you're hearing this, it means they've crossed the line. I paused the image. This, I explained to the cadets, was dismissed as mere morale theater. The recording resumed. We didn't start this, but we will finish it. A few of the cadets shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Our analysts flagged the absence of panic, I continued, gesturing to the stoic figure. They assumed it was a performance. I angled my head. What they did not understand is that humans perform their panic privately. The main screen shattered into dozens of smaller windows, chaotic hospital wards, crowded evacuation corridors, families holding each other tight, and volunteers assembling ancient equipment. They compartmentalize fear, I said. Then they operationalize it. The military chatter vanished, replaced by human entertainment, art, and music. This was categorized as noise, I said. Cultural irrelevance. A low rhythmic sound filled the hall human percussion, steady and relentless. You hear chaos, I said. They hear cadence. The tempo shifted. Faster, sharper. They synchronized fleet movements to these rhythms, I said, not consciously. Instinctively. A cadet in the second tier raised a hand, hesitated, then lowered it when I looked their way. No, I said gently. Ask. The cadet swallowed. Commander, are you saying humans coordinated combat using music? A ripple of restrained disbelief passed through the hall. I am saying, I replied, that they remember patterns under stress better than they remember silence. I gestured, and the display overlaid fleet trajectories with audio waveforms. A perfect chilling alignment. Our commanders demanded cleaner data, I said. They ordered filters. Suppressions. The old anger stirred inside me, quiet and bitter. They threw away the key to victory because they couldn't stand the song. So we silenced what did not fit our models. The music cut abruptly. What replaced it was emptiness. That, I said, was when the humans went quiet. The hall seemed colder. They did not lose communications, I continued. They ended them. A strategic map appeared, human signals vanishing system by system. To us, this meant collapse, I said. To them, it meant commitment. I leaned forward slightly. When humans stop speaking, I said, it is because every necessary argument has already been settled. The display highlighted the moment our invasion fleet crossed into Signify proper. That was when their preparations ended, I said, and when ours became irrelevant. What we mistook for surrender was actually the silence before the storm. A unified, resolute silence. And in that quiet, we finally understood our mistake. We hadn't cornered them. They had been waiting for us. Thanks for watching. Phantom Static, where the phantoms speak through the static.